Wake up your morning in a brand new way with the positive people, places, events, and things in and around your neighborhood and around the world. No matter where you live, your mornings are about to get better. It's the refreshing way to start your day. No doom or gloom, just bright sunshine no matter what the weather. Metro Magazine with Bonnie McDaniel. Inspiring, informative, intelligent, Ion. Positively the best way to start your morning. Good morning and welcome to Metro Magazine. It has been said that music is the language of all nations. And if you're not awake this morning, you're about to wake up because I have two very exciting music artists with us here in the studio this morning. We have Nistha, did I say that right, yes. Raj? Mm-hmm. And you're not a stranger to Metro Magazine. He's back again with a new groove, hey. Christylez Bacon, and hey. We're so happy that you're here.
Thank you.
So, Chris, you've been up to a lot. So why don't you bring us up to date? Because the last time we were together, you had a project that you obviously finished up a long time ago. So why don't you bring us up to date as to what you're doing right now?
I released my second studio album called Hip Hop Unplugged, which is an all acoustic hip hop album that mixed together string orchestration, horn stuff, and a lot of different genres together with hip hop. And during that time and around that time, I started up a concert series called Washington Sound Museum. I started up in 2011. And the whole thing behind that is to expand my mission of cultural acceptance and unification through music by creating a series where I could collaborate with different people who specialize in different styles of music around the world, mixing it with hip hop and go-go.
So you've become international then?
Hey, like more cognizant or minded of it, you know?
Yeah.
So instead of just mixing together American influences, mixing together other ones, because when I would do this, I would learn so much about a group of people, about culture, and how that relates to me. And so I just learned so much.
So aside from the fact that music kind of is something that everybody can relate to, what has been, say, a common thread that you found in the different cultures, among the different cultures that you work with?
The common thread. One thing that I usually say is that everyone builds on the foundation of time. And if you can figure out the timing, you can figure out any and everything.
So timing, for those people who are not musicians, talk a little bit more about timing. Is it the beat or exactly what do you mean by timing?
Timing is meter. The meter, like the 1, 2, 3, 4. Or in this case with Nistha and I, we've been doing some things in like 5, some things in 10.
So give me an example. The two of you together.
Let's see. How about you count the Jopta one? Yeah. And so this is you could explain the cycle, and then I could do a beatbox to it, and then add some go-go into this one.
So keep the rhythm for Japtal?
Yeah.
So Japtal is a rhythm that is used in North Indian classical music. It's a 10-beat rhythm cycle divided into 5 segments. So the 2 5 segments are 2 and 3. So 2 and 3, 2 and 3. So it goes Dina, 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 or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
now go.
7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1.
You know, so just trying to mix together like different flavors.
Okay. So let's talk to you for a moment because our audience, at least my viewers, I don't know if they know who you are. Talk a little bit about your background because everyone knows who Christylez Bacon is. So let's talk a little bit about Nistha.
Sure. So I play the violin. I started with the Western classical violin. I grew up in Texas, and then I had
an Indian girl from Texas. I love that. Now, isn't that what you love about this country?
It's so diverse. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes. You have no idea who you're going to run into and where they're from.
Yeah.
Exactly. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's okay. So I had an interest to learn Indian classical music. It's part of my heritage and something that I had wanted to do for a long time. So after college, I went to India to study the classical music of North India. In India, we have 2 forms of music. there's one from the south and one from the north. So I studied the one from the north, and so I lived there for a number of years to study, and then I came back here to the States and kind of just decided to see where my music would take me. It's been a journey that I've been following, and I've been very lucky that I've met some really wonderful people like Chris along the way.
How did you guys meet, by the way?
You tell the story?
Okay, sure. So it was 2011, I
Okay.
believe, May. I was in my final year of grad school at George Mason University, and I was doing an internship with the National Endowment for the Arts. And we
Okay.
had a huge event, a national event, Poetry Out Loud, where high school students come and compete. And Christylez was the featured performer that night. I was at U Street Hall or Lincoln Theater?
Yep, Lincoln Theater.
Lincoln Theater, okay.
Yep.
So I saw the program and I was wandering around backstage and I was like, oh, who's this Christylez? I want to check out this music. I was excited about, I knew that he was performing with the Bohemian Caverns Jazz Orchestra. I had heard about them. And so then I saw him backstage. I didn't know who he was. He was carrying a guitar. And we just started chatting about music, and we both had been performing at a local art space called Bloom Bars. So we found that out, and we had that in common. And we just started talking about music, and I told him I play Indian classical violin, and he was like, oh, I've been really interested in that style of music. And he was like, I'm gonna hit you up. And I was like, okay. And he actually did. So, that was kind of how we met, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, rappers want to know about Indian classical music. Like, yeah, I'm gonna hit you up. We're gonna rap over it.
Exactly. I was like, yeah, this guy's not gonna call me. And then lo and
Funny.
behold.
Yeah, Chris doesn't put any,
No.
yeah, he doesn't issue any idle connections, if you will. Yeah. So, Chris, let me ask you, what was it about her style of music that made you say, this might be interesting? Talk about that.
Well, whenever I would come across Indian classical music or just the music from India in general, I heard like DC flavor in it. I heard DC flavor in it. I don't know if
Okay.
people, others can hear it, but I can. And I'm like, oh, that goes hard. Oh, I love this. This sounds good. It has like, I can hear the funk in it.
Okay.
It's 12th century music, but I can hear the funk in it. And so I
Okay.
always wanted to explore those connections. And so by working together, I could finally understand it. And it just made me, learning this stuff from Nistha made me a better musician. And then with this recent concert that we just did, we finally had the opportunity to bring in like a string quartet, to bring in like a jazz and funk horn section.
And I
beatboxing.
tried to get there, at least sign up for it before you sold out. And then I looked on Facebook and I saw this big sold out. I'm like, oh no, I missed it. Did you all record that?
Yeah.
Oh, we recorded everything.
Okay.
Yeah. Our entire 3-month period of collaborating for Washington Sound Museum, we've been shooting a documentary for it too. So at some point, it's going to be a doc out about the whole process.
Wonderful, wonderful. So talk to me then about what was your music like in terms of, because I know he was doing performances all over DC and in New York and other places. Talk about what your career has been like.
Since I've met Chris?
No,
or
before then.
before we met.
Where were you performing?
Oh, so before then, I was kind of just at the kind of the early stages of developing a professional career, I guess, in music. I had been working with the Indian Embassy, doing some events with them, kind of more classical-based events where I play the music just traditionally, like violin and tabla. So things like that, and then world music, like festivals, things like that. Nothing really like specific comes to mind, but I think since 2011. Kind of around that time is when my music sort of picked up and I started doing more interesting collaborations. Chris has definitely been one of them. And my focus with my music has been kind of, in the last few years, I've kind of narrowed it down to where I really like to root all of my music in the traditional style of Indian classical music, but use other genres as well to make it more accessible to a wider audience, because classical music is great, but it's not for everybody, unfortunately. Right. So I like to find ways to give the audience a way to hold on to it. So not only like my collaboration with Chris has been wonderful, but I've worked with other artists like a flamenco guitarist or things like that to kind of give a different flavor to the music, so that the root is still there, the Indian classical music, that flavor is there, that's the essence of it, but there's other interesting aspects of it. So that's kind of been my focus, and I've been able to work with through Strathmore, where Chris was also an artist in residence prior to when I was. I worked a lot of the different artists in residence there. There was a kora player, so we got to mix African music with my music, and that was really cool. And yeah, so kind of.
Wow, I love it. So, if you talk about collaborating with different genres of music, different cultures, is there an underlying theme or something that the two of you would like to see be accomplished? Talking about conversation and understanding each other, because music is a great equalizer, if you will, between people. Are there any ideas, or have you given it that much thought as to what you'd like to see come out of not just the two of you collaborating, but perhaps other musicians of different cultures, different genres collaborating with one another? Talk about that.
Oh yes, so that is what I'm all about. So and doing this Washington Sound Museum concert series where we just did the concert for, it's all about not only just us mixing our styles of music together, but also representing the cultures and helping people see each other better. So by Nistha doing what she does and being so great at what she does, she has her audience and her community, same here on my end, and we bring them together. And not only with the music, we had workshops before the concert starts. So we had
what do you do in the workshops?
So
and these are with students that you're doing this, or with anyone who signs up?
Any concert attendee that comes through.
Okay.
So like an hour before the concert start, we have pre-concert activities. One of those things at the top of the hour before the concert is a tea time, because I just love tea.
You know,
yeah.
Remember
tea.
Yeah, the last time he was with us, we were actually in our studio, and that's what Chris and I, we have that in common.
Tea,
we love tea. Yeah,
So,
tea is another way of bringing
I know
people together.
everyone has a tea culture, and that's something to do with tea and their culture. It's crazy. So with this one we have chai, so we did that. And then we have two 15-minute dance workshops. The first one was Bollywood dance. Bollywood being more accessible than Indian classical dance was like you have to really go in for that one. But
so
Bollywood,
is there any similarities to some of the dances that we do?
Oh, let me tell you.
Talk about that.
So look, the 15-minute workshop, right? That's the Bollywood dance workshop, and then it's a Beat Your Feet workshop after that. And Beat Your Feet is a contemporary dance a contemporary go-go dance that goes with go-go music. And it's a lot of footwork, and it's a lot of arms and stuff. It mixes together like miming, popping and locking, the funk styles from like the 70s and stuff, and 80s. And so that's Beat Your Feet, straight up DC stuff. And so attendees come in, they do the tea, then they take the Bollywood stuff, then they take the Beat Your Feet stuff, then they see the concert where it all comes together.
Okay.
And so while we're doing the concerts, you're also learning about like the culture, and we're seeing each other better than just like what a biased source of information would give you on someone's culture. You know what I'm saying? You get to know real people, and that's what I want to come out of it. And it's all types of ripple effects. Now with the dance styles, the similarities, right? Footwork, like so it's a lot of dance styles. They have like bells at the feet and stuff, and they'll do a lot of footwork there. And so go-go, we have footwork as well, you know.
Okay. And you were able to demonstrate and incorporate this in the workshops.
Oh, during the concert, doing our pieces during the concert, you had Indian classical dancers come out and perform over top of go-go music, and so people could see Indian classical dance in a go-go context.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Over go-go music. And then also you have go-go happening on top of 12th century Indian classical music.
Wow.
And so you get to see these things like flip-flop and then come together towards the end of the concert. We mixed all of these styles together. So you had go-go and Indian dance happening at the same time with our music.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break and come right back with more because I'm sure there's a lot more you need to share. I would love to learn a lot more about. So we're going to be right back with more Metro Magazine in just a moment.
When you throw away money on wasted electricity, you're throwing away everything you could have bought with it. Saving energy saves you money.
Oh, sweetheart. Gonna give you a hand?
No thanks, Dad. I got it.
Okay. I'm gonna go fix the lamp in your room.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of children in foster care who will take you just as you are.
And we're back. If you're just joining us, we're actually having a lot of fun in the studio this morning. And I'm telling you, first of all, I don't want you guys to make fun of me because they're gonna give me a music lesson. And they're gonna take me outside of my comfort zone, but I'm gonna have a blast doing this. We're here with Christylez Bacon and Nistha Raj. Nistha Raj, I'm sorry. And they are making lovely music together. So when we went to break, you were talking about the workshops and some of the things that you're doing to bridge the gap between different cultures and genres of music. So I would like very much if you could give a demonstration, because I think I can do this, of how we can make music this morning. With me, giving me a simple part, of course.
All right, here we go. So we're about to do a little beatbox lesson. The great thing about beatbox is you can always have it on you at all times. You don't need to check in with TSCA or anything. All right, so
I'm about to embarrass my kids.
So Nistha knows a sound. I call that the little clock sound, because if you change it, you do that.
Okay.
So that's gonna be Nistha's sound right quick. And your sound, let's see. You know when you trying to contact somebody like in the classroom and you like psst, 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 psst.
Oh, I can do that.
You do that. So now you want to put more lip into it. Psst, psst. Yeah, there you go. Now we're gonna do it like this. You gotta so now you gotta hold the psst, psst, psst. All right, now you gotta change the note by putting the hand in front.
Oh, wow, I'm good.
There it is. Hey, I mean, you know.
Let me see.
There you go.
Oh, that's really cool.
There you go. You got the sound. All right, so this is how we're going to do it. So whenever I look to Nistha, she's going to do the sound. And whenever I look at you, you got to do the psst.
Okay.
I'll point to you, you do the psst. All right, here we go.
Okay.
Here we go.
Okay, guys, I'm going to be on the corner with a cup. You guys got to put some nice donations in there. That is too funny.
There it is.
I love it.
Quick and easy beatbox right there.
Chris, for those those of our viewers who were not, who did not tune in to us a few years ago, actually, give a little bit more background as to how you came to be Christylez Bacon and learning and being interested in the music that you're interested in, because you're a phenom as far as I'm concerned.
I appreciate
And you have such an ear for music that I think is not common.
Well, thank you so much.
So talk about your background a little bit.
Well, I grew up in Southeast DC.
The home of the mambo sauce, is that where?
The home of the mambo sauce.
Mambo sauce.
Yeah. Or mumbo sauce, depending on who says it, you know.
Okay.
But like,
then I'm still looking to have a sample.
I know, I'm gonna have to take you out to get some wings. Oh, you don't eat wings, okay.
No, we can put it on shrimp or some type of fish.
And I can't eat shrimp. I'm like the only Washingtonian that can't eat shrimp.
Okay.
So yes, I don't. But like, I grew up in Southeast DC.
Okay.
And in DC, it's already a musical town because of go-go music created by Chuck Brown. It's like party music. It's a cousin of funk, and so you would hear go-go beats all the time. It's just like hearing jazz or second line in New Orleans, really. So you grew up hearing all this stuff in DC. People bang on the buckets and trash cans. We would do this as a community, informally. Like all the kids get their buckets and trash cans. I beg my mom to let me go out and play on the buckets with my friends. And do all of that. From there, you join marching band.
So were you collecting donations when you were doing this?
No, we just did it. It was just in our neighborhood and like little projects and stuff. We just gather around and just do it just to have fun. Never thought about really making money with it. That would have been nice.
Yeah.
But we know everybody in the community, and they barely we barely making ends meet. So what they gonna do? They try and buy a loaf of bread, and they gonna be like, I'm gonna throw it to them. You know?
Oh gosh.
So, but So that's like one of my earliest experiences in music. My mom DJ'd and stuff like that. So I grew up listening to a lot of different styles.
Oh, wow.
A lot of different kinds of music from my grandma's era, from my mom's era, and hip hop, because my mom is of the hip hop era.
Okay.
So I listen to all those different things, and I always want to do hip hop music. I thought I was gonna go to Duke Ellington to do School of the Arts here in DC for like music and drawing, but I went there for drawing because you can't study hip hop at a School for the Arts like that. You know?
Who teaches hip hop? I mean, I guess
That's
now
the
they
thing.
do, but
That's the thing. It's a very informal thing. It's a,
Right.
it's a folk thing, really. It's almost like it's pretty much folk music. You learn it on the streets. You just pick it up. You learn it from someone else that does it. It's like, and then oral tradition and stuff like that. That's how hip hop is. Now you could take a hip hop dance class at a university.
Right.
You know, you could take DJing classes at Berkeley School of Music now. But as far as like the rhyming part, not really. Just something you pick up and you do. It's poetry. It's poetry in a sense.
now, so let me ask you, talking about hip hop, because a lot of people have their negative connotations,
Oh, yeah.
especially with today's hip hop. And I remember Run DMC
Yep.
and those guys, and it was not about that at all. It was very positive, and it was the rhyming, and that whole thing was the focus.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you're doing in terms of trying to help to educate new hip hop artists in terms of, you know, hey, you can keep this positive and make a difference, which is what Run DMC was doing. They were telling stories,
Yeah.
but in a good way.
You know the thing, and then I catch a lot of like little pieces about like rappers and what was going on at the time while hip hop was happening. And there's some like great shows you could catch out there in podcasts. And I hear, even with the artists that were out there doing positive work in the world, like what they did outside of the music may have been some street stuff, because guess what? They came from the
street, yeah.
But even if they was doing street stuff, they didn't even portray that image.
Right,
You know, on the screen, you know, because this is kind of like an escape, you know what I'm saying, from that. This is like a way out versus today where the street stuff is promoted, you know what I'm saying, promoted by not artists, but the people who have the means to promote the art.
So Nistha,
Yes.
let's talk about the Indian culture. And are there similarities in terms of how you create music that relates to what Chris was talking about in our culture?
Sure. So classical music is a little bit different. The way I've learned the classical music of India has been, you know, it's been passed down from teacher to student for a very long time. So we learn sort of compositions, in particular ragas, which are melodies. That's the classical music. But we also have things like folk music. Same thing like Chris was saying.
Okay.
You know, some of the music that I've written or composed or arranged has been, I've taken a folk song that, you know, I've heard or listened to somewhere along the line, and I've rearranged it, or I've added lines to it, or I've, you know, orchestrated it for different instruments, things like that. So there's that aspect. But then the classical music is more kind of, there's room for a lot of improvisation as well, taking the elements, the foundation of the music structure, presenting it in that way, but then adding your own take on it, in the sense that whatever your technical abilities as well, your understanding of how to present the music, what capacity you have, how skilled you are at it, that all comes out when you play classical music. So that's sort of the tradition of presenting that. And my own experience with music has been kind of varied. I grew up in a home that music wasn't very much emphasized. I had to kind of really seek it out. I heard Bollywood music growing up with my mom, but we used to watch the Bollywood movies from the 60s and 70s, where the music was very much, at that time, it was still like centered around classical music or influenced by it. But nowadays, Bollywood has changed so much, it's hard to make those connections anymore. But so I grew up with Bollywood music, spiritual music, religious music. I went to my temple a lot. My mom was very religious. We went to temples. I used to play all the instruments in the temple. And that's more along the lines of, I guess, folk music, but it is a genre of its own, like spiritual music of India. So that definitely influenced me, being able to participate in that and learning that style of music. And then, you know, I had the opportunity to study Western classical violin, which, you know, I still have elements of that in my playing, but definitely the most influential thing has been the classical music.
Okay. Now, you talk about the two of you coming together and performing together, and you're taking this further. What has been, or has there been something that has come out of your performances that surprised you, that's something that you didn't expect in terms of people who saw and witnessed and participated, say, in some of the workshops? What were some of the surprises?
Man, well, people definitely supported to the fullest.
Yeah.
Like,
I know the sold out, I never got there.
I'm always
Yeah,
amazed.
but-
I mean,
yeah.
I mean, you know, I mean, it's not like I don't have great confidence in the stuff, in the work that we produce or anything. But, you know, I'm very much appreciative of everyone who comes out and supports, you know.
But even before this concert series, when Chris and I started presenting our work together, we've had such an overwhelming positive response. I think that people are like, oh, that's so unexpected to see Indian classical music and hear a hip hop, you know, beatbox rhythm to it. And like, it was just, people have been so welcoming and appreciative.
Yes.
And they're like, oh, I've never seen a violin used like that. Or I've never seen Indian music being played with a beatboxer. So
Yeah, I know that's right.
yes, I think
That is
So
yeah.
we've done it for many communities, like Nishta's community, and definitely mine's. Like I took her to she laughed, but I took her to an open mic, with my boys there. My boys Godzilla, that's their rap group name, and they
Godzilla, I like
God's, yeah, like Godzilla, but Godzilla and stuff, and so they had this thing called the Up and Up Open Mic. At the time, it was happening on U Street at this nightclub spot called Live. And usually that's hip hop, go-go, and some R&B. That's what's there, right? And it's just like nothing but black folks up in there. We up in that joint heavy supporting.
So
you know
what was they see
and
her
so
come
I
on the
was,
stage.
I told them, I
What
was
it
like, yo, I wanna bring my homegirl Nistha here. Yo, we've been doing this thing where we mix together Indian classical music and hip hop and stuff. And they was like, yo, come through. Because I mean, I've done some crazy. I show up there and I play spoons. You know? That, you know what I'm saying?
That's what I love about
this
you.
and all that was their introduction to me, right? And
Right.
so they're just like, all right, yo, I know you got that crazy stuff, but it's gonna be good. And so I come through, and then Nishta's like,
well, I was just kind of like, oh my God, they're going to hate me, or like, you know, because it was just a crowd that I wasn't used to.
So you
and
probably watch Apollo at Night of the
Yes,
Apollo
yeah.
and thinking, oh God, they're going to boot me
Showtime
off the
Apollo,
stage.
yeah.
not that they're
Showtime,
gonna,
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah,
not that they're gonna
Apollo.
hate us, but like it was just, I was like, oh my God, we're doing something so out of this realm, and like just kind of like, where did that come from type of thing. And like I was like, oh, you know, kind of hesitant, but then it was,
because it's not a part of the playlist,
Yeah,
definitely.
exactly.
Right.
You know, but me, the reason why I wanted to bring it there, because we all need to experience these things, not just experience our work, but we need to experience each other's culture and let these type of performances and collaboration be the gateway into like knowing about each other and seeing each other and being connected, like global family style. And so we get there, and and then the downpour thing or the drone note comes on, and then they just like, oh, what's happening? And then she does this. Then she does her intro into the raga called a alap,
Alap, yeah.
and then she's hitting that, and then people are like, oh, and then I come in with the beatbox to it. And see, and like, so with Nishta, with our collaboration, Nishta's responsible for the quality control with her style of music, right? And me, I'm responsible for the quality control of my style of music. So whatever I do in relation to her, I'm gonna make sure that it honors her style and all the constructs of Indian classical music. But I'm gonna also make sure that when my people hear it, you know, they hear the funkiness to it. It's a point where they could come and meet. So it's just like, oh, I know this because of this. You know what I'm saying? It's like showing up at a party and you're not, and you don't know the person whose birthday it is, but you're like, oh yeah, I'm his friend. It's like, oh, okay, so I'm the reason why they're here because they're my friend.
So you're like
and so
the
I do that
gateway, if you
musically.
will.
Yeah, and so it works on both ends. And so they heard that, and I even did a go-go beat when it was my time to solo in there. And then cats loved it. Like the host hit the stage afterwards, they was like, man, I feel like I've been like transformed. I feel like I went places. And the next thing you know, we take that to cats and we take that to like DC public schools and different communities. They're gonna be cats in Southeast, like little kids that might not have the money to leave town or leave their own
Or
quadrant.
even understand the Indian
Yeah,
culture where there
exactly.
might be some negative whatever, because you don't know what people have seen.
Because you know in cartoons, you know in films, there are always going to be stereotypes, and people always play on these stereotypes for comedic value, and then that's how we're getting our information is through the TV. It's just like, so by making these connections and seeing this, they're going to be kids in my old neighborhood where I grew up that might not have the money to go places like that. And just see pictures online, and they'd be like, "Oh, that's a tabla right there. How do you know that? Oh, yeah, because they came and did that, and we had talks afterwards." And there it is.
And on the flip side, Chris has joined me, like he said, in my community where a bunch of Indian people who probably don't interact very much with African American people, let alone someone coming in beatboxing. So
man.
that was an experience itself
Yeah,
too.
So
we
what
did
was
this
the
thing.
reaction when you said
The
you were
Garba?
bringing in this?
Garba, yeah,
Yep.
everybody loved you there. They were
Okay.
like, you're like the only African American man in how many people?
You gotta give a
100?
context of this event.
Yeah. So it is a cultural event that happens every year. It's a kind of I guess it's tied into religion, the New Year. It happens around October, November, called Garba, which is celebrating the New Year. And it's a dance, actually, where people come together and do this dance form as a community, as a whole. And so I took Chris with me this past year, and we performed for everybody there. And it's just all Indian people. I don't think like
I was the only
I think
cat.
you were the only,
There's one other sister in there, and then I was trying to get attention, but she was just over here. But yeah, I was the only one, and so of course, and then I'm not wearing the traditional garb. I like dress like how I dress and stuff like that, because that's my culture, And so, but I still pay my respects, what I'm saying. I'm make sure the shoes off the feet and everything.
But you bring up something interesting, because I think one of the disservices we do to one another is by not honoring what is different about us. But also, when we don't bring that, then we can't very well merge what the similarities are, because you're not bringing yourself. You're bringing an imitation because you're trying to make someone else comfortable. So the idea that you are allowing him and honoring the fact that this is how he dresses, and that he honors you, and this is your dress and your tradition, I think is very, very powerful.
That's very timely.
Not to get into politics, but this is a big issue right now with our First Lady having gone to
Saudi Arabia,
recently, and it has been done in the past, but I don't know why it hasn't been brought up. The fact that it's okay as long as you're respectful, I think, and you're coming and you're paying, homage or honoring someone else's culture. I think it's a two-way street.
Yeah.
Is the point I want to make. So I really applaud you for doing that. I am going to ask the question because I want both sides. Have there ever been situations where you've had disappointments in terms of when you've introduced what you're doing to a new audience? Or if it hasn't, I don't need you to, manufacture anything, but has there been a situation where you've been disappointed that they didn't get what you were doing?
Oh, well, sometimes, like, we've done, like, outreach things, like, I do a program in some libraries and stuff, you know what I'm saying? I do programs in the libraries as well, like, during the summer. Get kids hip to some stuff. And it was one time, the kids act a donkey. They'll go buck wild.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, yo, Nish, just like that's it. That's what it is too. Like, you know what I'm saying? And that's everybody. You're gonna have some buck wild little youngins there every now and then.
So were you able to bring them around once they heard the
we
music,
brought them
or?
around. Some cats are not gonna be some like little ones. It depends on the infrastructure set up by the place. Now, if the place does a good job at handing over the space, like I'm a guest, right? She's a guest, and then the person who has the rapport with everyone, they're like, yo, these are these people. They're here to do this. And
let's give them our attention.
Yeah. So this is why they're here. They're doing this, and now I introduce you to them and hand over the space. But if you have us just come down in the middle, out of nowhere, and just sit down and do this, we might captivate a good number of people. But you know what I'm saying? It still might be a little rambunctious too, because you got to hand over the space. This is a very important thing when bridging. You have to have a representative. You know what I'm saying too. To let you know this is cool, you know what I'm saying. You gotta have somebody to sign off too.
You bring up an interesting point. You're talking about children, but I think, in my experiences, I think that's pretty much across the board of all ages. In that, whoever is bringing the people into the space really have to set the tone, if you will.
Exactly. Yep.
And I think that's very, very important. So you guys are teaching some very, very important lessons as far as how do we interact and communicate with one another, and you're doing it through music, which is why I wanted to bring you on this morning, because you're doing an excellent job at doing that. So we're going to take another quick break, and when we come back, are you all interested in maybe giving us a flavor?
Sure.
Oh yeah.
And we're going to be right back. And you don't go anywhere, grab that tea or whatever you need to do during break, but come right back because we have a treat for you. Listening to the sounds of Christylez Bacon and Nistha Raj, and we're going to hear you live here in the studio. So why don't we get started and see what you've come up with? Wow.
Hey.
You know, when I'm sitting here listening to this, I just had the greatest epiphany. Wouldn't it be wonderful if you all brought all these different cultures together at the White House?
That would be dope.
I mean, think about it.
Definitely.
You have always different people coming from different cultures, from different countries, and they're talking about diplomacy and
Yes.
how do we bridge the gap between our different cultures and have good conversation. Imagine that. So listen, I know I have some of my White House folks White House people who watch this show. So I want you to put that bug in whoever's ear that's there to reach out to Christylez and Nistha, because I think that would be a wonderful, wonderful concert to have. So talk to me about that piece. How did that come about? And the spoons. What was the
Yay.
inspiration there?
Okay, so let's see.
And
How
by the
did-
way, not to interrupt you, I heard you were saying that the classical music, Indian music had funk. I heard it. I'm not a trained ear, but I could hear it. I mean, it was really...
Like just the overlaps and how, you know, everything just sounds good together.
Yeah.
And when you add the percussion in there, the North Indian style percussion, the tabla in there, like, oh, it just really comes out. It's, yeah.
Wow.
So I guess in order to talk about that piece and how the spoons come into that, you have to lay down the foundation of that.
So this piece was called Shiv-Ranjani. The main melody was a sort of a folk melody I heard growing up, going to my temple, so it had a little bit of a religious context to it. So I had this melody in my mind, and it kind of just stuck with me all these years, and I just sort of, I expanded upon the melody, and then I made it into like different parts where we kind of transitioned, not so it wouldn't just be very stagnant, it would go somewhere. So that was kind of the idea behind the melody, where it came from, and I just ended up making an arrangement of it. It's based on a raga called Shiv-Ranjani, that's why I named the song Shiv-Ranjani. It's just a raga that has been used a lot, also in the Bollywood film industry, in the music. Shiv-Ranjani was a very common raga from around, I think, the 60s and 70s. So that's the music, the melody behind it. And I guess when Chris and I decided to work on this piece together, we added his beatboxing and then the spoons, that was Chris's contribution. Like, I had him listen to how the tabla would normally play some of the parts, and, you know, he really brought his own style and contributed quite a lot to it. So
yeah, indeed. Like various influences on my end. I play the spoons, and so I guess anytime when I get the chance to incorporate spoons, I'm gonna do it. And so, and which is some old American folk stuff. Once again, when you don't have money, you make something out of nothing. Like whether it's a washtub bass or an instrument out of two spoons, and these are definitely like just two regular little kitchen spoons.
That you've never, by the way, never played before, because
I know.
they came out of
they came out of my kitchen.
Yeah, it came out of Nish's kitchen because I left my fancy like welded together spoon set at home. So these are just, and they happen to match my outfit a little bit. They got the black and the, you know.
In case you haven't noticed, this is one of the cleanest young men that I know. I mean, I'm petitioning for you to start your own fashion line, because you are so clean every time I see you.
Any way I can get free clothing, I'm down.
So if you're listening and you want someone to wear your things in style, Christylez is the person to do it.
Oh yeah, I will style in your stuff.
Oh gosh.
And so the spoons, it just has a nice little feel. Like she's doing this pizzicato, boom, 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 boom. I'm like, oh, that sounds nice. Do like a kind of like it's like an anticipation thing, like castanets also in Spain have a similar sound. And then the beatbox part of it, I mean, I just heard how funky it was sounding with the tabla and everything, and what she's doing. And so I kind of like added like a beat that was kind of used in one go-go song. But you could also catch that in like hip hop in the 90s, in the mid to late 90s. Aaliyah had this song.
Oh yeah.
I remember that.
Like that. And so it's just like taking those different influences, say, oh, when does that sound nice? And then she talked about transitions to that piece. She has this one transition where it's in halftime, so instead of being like 1, 2, 3, 4, it's kind of like 1, 2, 3, 2.
Definitely
2, 3.
triplets.
Yeah, it's a halftime. And with that, I started doing this, but then I started doing a West African rhythm, but it's beatbox. You know what I'm saying? Just like different things like that, because the West African stuff is usually like in a 3 or a 6. And yeah, so a lot of those things.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, just a lot of those things connect. You know, it's just like.
I have to ask you again. I guess you do. You spend a lot of time studying different kinds of music because I'm still amazed at your ability to merge all of these different sounds in your head. I mean, again, you're not a common.
He has a vision.
Yeah, you really do, and you're merging. You're doing so much more than just making music. You're bringing people together under this guise of music, if you will.
Okay.
And bridging, bridging gaps in ways that, it's not common. Probably the only person that I think about who does this is Wynton Marsalis.
Barry McFerrin's another one too. He does it like with vocal music though.
Right.
I done seen some concerts with Barry McFerrin. He
You're
had
right.
Sweet Honey in the Rock. He have a choir from Czech Republic and all this and bring them together. And those are like very inspirational things. And cats like Wynton Marsalis and all those things. Those are very inspiring cats too. Because I'm like, oh yeah, I see how they do it.
Yeah, and he goes, and I've seen clips from him going into schools and teaching young people the art of making music, and he uses a lot of different elements to make that happen. Because I can think back to when I love classical music. I don't know where that came from, but because I grew up in the South and I was a Southern Baptist, so classical music was not something that was played in my house. But the first time I heard it and really recognized it for what it was, I think I was in high school, and I was like, oh gosh, I like that. And I find that classical music is where and how I create. So when I'm in my creative space, that's what I listen to, and all kinds of wonderful things, because I hear things when I'm listening to the different melodies and the notes. I see flowers, I see, landscape, all of this stuff comes into my head, and it's a great creative space for me. And I don't know if that's something that's common for people or not.
I'll say I think it's a quite common thing. When I was studying to be a visual artist at Duke Ellington, when we would do like still life drawings and everything, the classical station will come on and boom. A lot of people find that they get homework and they study better
with classical music.
With classical music on. I don't know, funk and gospel and go, they all make you want to just
energize,
dance and they just get you up there. But classical makes you think. The funny thing about classical is some classical waltz pieces you're supposed to dance to.
Oh, it's true.
You know what I'm saying? But we don't dance to them.
Yeah.
But it's
but
interesting
I don't know
this
why. When I discovered it, I realized that that's where I find my creative center, if you will.
Yeah. For me, also music, Indian classical music, a lot of the emphasis behind it is for meditation. It is a spiritual thing. It's I always think of music as my prayer, essentially. Like I'm not a very religious person, but I'm spiritual. But I use music to connect to something higher, to take me to that place where I also I'm transported. A lot of my creativity happens too when I'm listening to traditional classical Indian music. That the elements are there, and it really inspires me. It calms me. It kind of just it's hard to explain, but I totally understand what you're saying.
And and thinking about that, I think it's, at least for educators who are watching this, it might be something to explore, especially if you're talking about rambunctious children. I'm thinking about a friend of mine who homeschools her children, and I remember because they like to come to my house whenever, because I love tea. And I do it for children and my friends or whatever. That's how we connect, And I remember her coming over and us doing a tea outside in my garden a couple of years ago. And they came back in, and I turned on my radio, and the music came on. It was classical music. And the children, without any prompting, they sat and they knew it was time to be still.
Be calm. Yeah.
And I said, oh, that's interesting. She goes, oh yeah, whenever, it's time for them to be still, I turn on the classical music. She trained them. And when they hear this, they automatically go into that state and they sit and they're quiet. And these are some very active children. So it's something to maybe explore, because music does that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very powerful.
Very, very powerful. So we're going to do one more, because we're going to run out of time before, I don't want to run out of time before we have an opportunity to talk about some of your projects that are coming up and how people can support the work that you're doing. And I will say, even before we get to the end, I definitely want to keep in touch and continue this conversation, because I think what you're doing is very powerful. So what are you going to do next?
All right. So we could do... We could do Bite of E.
Want to do Bite of E?
Yep.
Okay.
So this part, this piece right here is one of the first pieces Nistha and I started working on when we started our collaborative process, and it's a 16-beat rhythmic cycle,
Which is in Indian music, our 16-beat rhythmic cycle called Teen Tal is our basic 4/4 rhythm structure, which is universal.
Yeah, like a
4/4
1,
and
2,
yeah,
3,
exactly.
4, like a 4 on the floor.
Yeah, we counted 4 + 4 + 4 + 4, but it's essentially 4/4.
Yeah, but then the part that threw me for a loop with this one when we first started creating is it has to start on the 12th beat of the cycle. So it starts in ahead of time. And then they have like, you know, when they like hit me on the one, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, James Brown gonna hit on the one, right? The one is called the sum.
The sum. It's the most important beat, sort of your point of reference to keep track of where you are in the rhythm cycle. It's the most emphasized beat. And then we also have the 9th beat, which is this non-stress beat. So that also is, they're indicators of how you are able to keep track of where you are in the rhythm cycle, because the emphasis is to always return back to the one or pick up the composition from beat, whatever, beat 12, beat 7, whatever it is.
But the funny thing was when she was trying to teach me everything, I come in on the beat, she'd be like, 1. See, I'm like, whoa. I'm like, whoa, what are you doing? No, that's on the 2 and the 4. That's like 1, 2, 3, 4. She's like, 1. I'm like, no. But this is how you do with the sum. So once we realized that the way our styles of music,
The interpretation
we got that. Then we were able to figure this out.
We got
and
it.
even incorporate our own stuff into my own stuff into like the hip hop and go-go. I would do like, she's gonna pass a solo to me, and I'm gonna incorporate different types of rhythms in there.
Okay, cool. Remarkable. Wow. How long did it take you all to compose that piece?
So how long?
I don't know, it kind of came up organically. Like, so I basically played the piece how I would play with the tabla player, which is the accompanying drum for the classical music of North India. And Chris just kind of brought in his style
Kind of
and his
improvised.
understanding. He did a great job with, you know, keeping the rhythm solid, you know, within showing me the rhythm cycle. And we just kind of evolved it into this sort of presentation. I wanted to kind of keep it like a little taste of what the classical music of North India sounds like. So we kind of gave like the call and response that we did. It's very typical within an Indian classical music performance. So we had that flavor in there. The way we ended it is called a jala, which is a finale part of how you would present the music at a faster pace. So we had some of the main elements of playing a traditional piece in Teen Tal, which is the 16-beat rhythm cycle.
Yeah. So Oh, no,
I'm sorry. No, I was about to say, you talked about call and response. You know, that's very,
Yeah,
very
that's
much
another one.
a part of our culture,
Sure.
Yep,
especially
yep.
as it has to do with gospel music
Yep.
or spiritual
Right.
music.
Your music,
So
too.
Yeah.
that would be very interesting
Yeah, so that's
to do the call and response, because I don't know, are you familiar with that?
Yes, I mean, I know what you're talking about, and within even Chris, I hear Chris's own music, his genre. He's
hip-hop and
call and
go-go as well.
responses.
Well,
yeah.
I am, the call and response, as it has to do with our culture, goes back to
the
the
gospel.
slaves,
Yeah, yeah.
where
Okay.
they could not, normally they couldn't read or write, and there might be one person who was in the room who was able to read the hymnal at church,
and so he would-
and he or she, mostly he, would do the line and verse, and then the response would be from from the congregation, and they would follow up and respond
Yeah.
with what
See,
was said. That would
yeah.
be
You
so
just hit me to something.
powerful.
I knew that it went back to gospel, but I didn't know for that purpose. You know,
Yeah.
I was talking to this lady that plays a friend of mine who plays organ, like old Italian style organ with the foot and everything like that. And she was talking about this one church that she started playing in. They had a new pastor come in there, and he's from like the African American like church Baptist experience, and they had the choir singing all the time. He'd call them out, and then they always do the response and stuff.
Yeah, but that goes very, very
Yeah.
deep
I
in
think
our
it's-
culture,
I
and
think
that would
it's-
be, oh my gosh, because that's a form of music I think that's being lost in our culture,
Huh.
and I'm calling you out, because
Oh.
preserving that would be so powerful. And imagine integrating your music, your call and response, to the call and response that goes to our culture. I think
Yeah.
that would be powerful.
Yep, I'm actually working on another collaboration right now. I'm doing something in April, the music of Brazil. That'd be like the second Washington Sound Museum of this season. So in our 23rd installment of them in total, and it's gonna be the music of Brazil. And in Brazil, I'm noticing what a lot of the music we're picking for repertoire. A lot of them are songs that are written about the Orishas, which goes back to like Nigerian, like culture and Yoruba and all that. And I'm like, wow. So you could say all these pieces are religious pieces. And I'm like, what happened if we put that next to gospel?
Exactly.
And then some of Nisha's pieces are religious, as she just got finished telling you. So we have all those things in common.
It's a universal thing, I
Yeah.
believe.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
you talked about-
and
yeah.
that's what I love about music. It really does provide a bridge to bring people across into the same space. And on that note, we are running out of time, and I'll tell you, it's never enough time, especially when you're having fun like this. But I want you to very quickly tell people how they can get in touch with both the two of you, and separate and apart from each other, so that we can continue to encourage you with the work that you're doing.
Sure. So you can find me on my website, www.nistharaj.com. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and all that good stuff.
This is very true. And Christylez.com, CHRISTYLEZ.com. And the work that we were doing was part of Washington Sound Museum. That's WashingtonSoundMuseum.com. For those who didn't get a chance to get the tickets to the show, if you type in the hashtag WSM22, you get the chance to see all the photos and the videos from the collaboration. It's all there.
Wow. This has been so much fun, and this is going to wrap it up for us this week on Metro Magazine. And you know where to find me every Tuesday and Thursday mornings, 6 to 7 a.m. And I'm sure we have some more wonderful things coming up for you in the coming weeks. So be sure to tune in, set your DVRs, because we'd love to see you here. That's going to wrap it up for us, and I will see you on the flip side. And you're going to close us out with some music?
Oh, sure.